There are no bootstraps big enough in the world to pull you out of houselessness. It is not easy to hold down a job. It is not easy to take care of your personal needs. How are you supposed to hold down a job when you cannot wash your clothes? Detoxing in the woods will kill you. We want to put so many means testing on access to basic human services. I know people that have waited 5 years for housing. I have a job. This is my job today. Our job today is to stand up for those who don't have a voice. We don't have the option to just sit this out. We're using our privilege to speak for those who are not privileged. And if you can't understand that, I ask you to think about what you do with your day when you see somebody who's unhoused. Do you judge them? What do you think? What do you think when you see somebody asking for $1? Do you judge them?
Go away.
Why?
Why would I want them to have a job?
Why would you judge them? What comes to your mind? And ask yourself, were you in the situation that they were in? What would you do? How gracious would you be? Housing is a human right, and it needs to be enshrined as such. But until that time, our job today is to stand out here and bring awareness to the evictions happening behind Hannaford's and Aldi. It could literally kill some of our neighbors. And the city doesn't seem to care. They seem to continue to offer the same broken answers and the same broken system. You know, they're calling for more cops, more money for programs that don't work, when they could just put a dumpster out there, when they could just designate an area for people to camp. You can't force people into housing if there's no housing. But half the people, hell yeah, thank you. Half the people walking by and driving by are 1 or 2 paychecks away from being in a camp behind Hannaford's than there are ever going to be close to being a billionaire or even, hey, a millionaire. Y'all working class people got to realize that you have a lot more in common with our unhoused neighbors than the people at City Hall, the people at big business and government. You don't have solidarity with them. They got solidarity with each other against you, and we got to have solidarity with each other. We got to stand together. And especially for those who don't have anybody in their corner. Today we're in their corner.
So at this point, we're just hitting the road. We're going to go try to find some of the folks who are out there. We're actually standing by, making sure that the cops don't come and do any harm to these people. Not much happens on this day. We're all hanging out, waiting for things to happen. I think that's social services down the way. If it's not, they're the folks in the Hummer on the other side when we get to that footage. We're just there keeping an eye out. These folks built a barricade to try to slow down any action. We wondered what the big heavy equipment was all about. It wasn't about us. That was kind of nice. I've yet to face down a tank or a dozer. These are the good folks doing the work. And it isn't pretty. It's a tough thing.
A version of things. We appreciate the food. We're real. Like your offer. for me. They're still here.
Here's
for
all
the
the
moment.
city
They have been
services.
too.
Of course they
are
are.
talked to.
That's all right. No, they're all trying to do good stuff too. And everybody's trying to help here.
Is there anybody out there right now?
I didn't find anybody, but I also didn't go poking too deeply.
One of the main things that we've heard is that people don't want to go to shelters. The list of barriers is too big to name. What people want is a sanctified site for them to camp, so they can live their own lives, have their own modicum of freedom that we all enjoy. You know, whether you're a homeowner or a tenant. You know, obviously as a tenant you enjoy a lot less, but you have your own free space. And, you know, asking these people who have like deep levels of trauma, struggles with substance abuse, you know, animals that can't be in shelter, asking them to be in living on top of each other while in a cramped space during a pandemic. I mean, I couldn't think of a more ridiculous thing to ask. I've worked in mental health and I've worked in crisis, and you can't just force people into a space with all these rules. They're not gonna succeed. You're setting them up to fail, and they've already told you, you know, like, these are the answers that would work for us, that allow us to have some autonomy, could allow us to get on our feet, you know? So I think that those are some pretty clear answers. You know, if it's about private property, then take some city property that we're not using, you know, and open it up for people. Employ some of them to, you know, like take care of the land and like be kind of arbiters in their community. Empower them to be part of the community, you know. But like this, what you got going on in the city, it doesn't empower them to do shit.
I think the degree to which there are shelter beds is, for one, overstated. A lot of the shelter beds are not consistently available or even available at all right now. And also many of the shelter beds are out of town, which is not an option for people who have family here, who rely on jobs or services here in the city. So to be put into a shelter that is outside of Keene is not an option that's available to them. There's also people who have pets. There's people who are, I mean, even terminally ill out there who can't move into a shelter. It's not a space where they can access the correct kind of medical care that they need, or it's so overwhelming that it's medically unsafe for them. So there's a lot of options that someone may not want to stay in a shelter. And people in recovery, the shelters in Keene are wet shelters. So if people are attempting to stay sober, they'll be exposed to a lot of people who are still using, which can be really an unsafe environment for a lot of people.
They have a litany of health issues directly related to being unhoused and being chronically under levels of stress that, you know, frankly, for your average person are unmanageable. I mean, I don't know harder working people than our neighbors out behind Hannaford's or Aldi. I have not met a single person like that works half as hard as these people do just to get by in a day, you know. And so I think that it's really quite self-evident how harmful something like that could be if you just take time to think about, you know, what that might be like for you if you put yourself in those shoes for a moment and said, oh, I don't have a place to go, and you know, social workers are telling me the cops are going to come slash my tent, you know, like, that freaked me out, man.
From the city, the options that are being offered at the moment are shelter beds exclusively. They are not accepting any solution in which people are still camping outdoors, which honestly to me shows that they haven't had extensive conversations with the people that they're actually going to be moving, because if they had, they would understand why shelter beds are not an option for these folks. And also there's a lot of talk of moving people out of town, which is very concerning. Because most people are not going to take that option. They're not going to accept a bed out of town. So there's a lot of talk of, you know, accepting services from Southwestern Community Services and things like that. But I think most people have no idea what options are even available to them. Even if they have talked to someone, I mean, it's a really confusing system. And there's also, people want to get them on the housing list. I would bet most of them already are on the housing list. And if they aren't, it's because it's 8 years long, and they don't see any point in being on it. So I think that really realistic solutions are something that provides them services outdoors, keeps them outdoors where they want to be, and gives them some semblance of stability while they're out there. really understanding their needs, their wants, their desires, and respecting them as community members that are intelligent and know what's best for themselves, just like everybody else. A lot of these folks are mentally ill. Some of them are users or in recovery from being drug users, and one person in particular is has terminal cancer. So I think that really the stakes are, for some of these people, are for death, because think about it. But I think that the stakes are extremely high for people, because one of the most important elements in recovery for any kind of illness, whether it's mental illness, whether it's addiction, is stability. People need to be able to know where they're going to sleep, how they're going to eat, what they're doing that day. They need a structure. And so by uprooting these people from the structure that they've created for themselves, the community support system that they have created independently, can be deadly for people who are in recovery. It can lead to increased overdoses, sickness, illness for people who end up out in the woods exposed to the elements. It can lead to any number of remarkably horrible health outcomes for people. So.
Yeah, it's kind of it's serious business. They were just saying, some of the stuff is just elementary. I mean, people want the same things. They don't want to be taken from their home. These folks, a lot of them are from Keene. They don't want to be taken somewhere. Don't want their lives turned upside down. I mean, no matter what you got going on, no matter how bad your day is, I mean, imagine it just being a little worse when, who knows? Whatever happens to your home, to your family, your possessions, instability is not a good thing. Stress is not a good thing. All of that stuff goes with being homeless. So yeah, once again, let me remind you how to get in touch with me. You can go ahead and send me an email if you would like to get a Zoom link to come on the show by Zoom. You can come into the studio like so. Just sit and do the thing. We're going to tape on Tuesday nights. You can also send me some media if you get to an event that I don't get to. If you have some pictures you'd like to show us, something you've created, feel free. Pop it right in. Send it to us, and we'll see what we can do for you, with you. I'd like to once again, I think, remind folks of the events coming up. I think I have these two just right handy. Thursday, 5 o'clock. We're going to be gathering for this stuff. We're going to talk to the folks in the FOP committee and give testimony. Some of us are. Before the hand, we're going to be in the square, honking, waving, showing signs, showing support. So join us then if you can. That would be pretty slick. On Friday, once again, the global climate strike here in Keene. Folks from New Hampshire Youth Movement, 350 New Hampshire, Rights and Democracy are all getting together. This will be 11 o'clock. We'll span the noontime hour. Get the honks, get the waves. Just try to shine a little light on what's going on, and draw a little awareness downtown. And that's what our next piece on this show will be about. I think I have my clips good to go here. And let me just tune that up to be sure I play the right stuff for you. Absolutely, wouldn't have it any other way. So yeah, this is it. Quick and easy show tonight with some pieces I have, some events coming up. Do what you can. Do every little thing you can. If it's show up and wave and say hello, we appreciate that. If you have something to donate to one of these causes, that's amazing. And I can tell you just about any organization in this town needs people who will give them some time. Consistently and when they can, but they really need volunteers who will show up. Showing up is half the thing. So without further ado, these are going to be some people from the climate strike in Jaffrey, Fridays for Future. They do their thing on Friday mornings. It's usually 8 in the morning in front of Rite Aid in Jaffrey. We hang out and have coffee and hold signs and wave at people and try to call attention to that situation. This is the global strike happening Friday, happening everywhere. I know they're doing it in Jaffrey. We're definitely doing it in Keene. I hope you can hook up with one of those things, or if not, once again, shine us on wherever you can.
Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Wheeler, and I have lived in Jaffrey my entire life. I just graduated from Roanoke College this past May and have returned back to New Hampshire. Fridays for Future is a really important movement to me. For my entire life, I've always loved being outside, being in nature. I've always loved animals. Some of my favorite hobbies include swimming and being in the water. And, you know, it's been something that's been just prominent my entire life. And it wasn't until this past year that I realized how much humans and our activity on Earth was hurting animals, causing species to go extinct, hurting our planet and our Earth. And it's kind of crazy that for the past 21 years, I never really saw how everything was connected. But then after realizing that everything is connected in different ways, whether it be with social justice and climate justice and racial justice, it's something that you just can't really forget. And honestly, at first, it's a little overwhelming because there's so much information that you want to learn about and so many things that you want to do. But this Fridays for Future group has been so great because it's kind of a group that has been really supportive and also really inspiring because each person has their own story and each person has the same values and morals, especially with caring about the planet. So it's been great to be able to get together on Friday mornings, spread our awareness about the climate, try and get that information out there, try and get more people talking about the climate change and taking climate action. And but also being able to talk with others, whether it be feeling more energetic and hopeful that week, or if you may be feeling more low that week, like people in our group always seem to pick you up and make you feel heard and also help you like make a difference in this world.
I'm Margie from Jaffrey. I know Maddie and Megan from teaching and coaching and just being in town with them. So that's how I started getting involved. But I'm mainly part of Fridays for Future because I really am worried about the effects of climate change. To me, they're very obvious. There's been great temperature changes, wildfire fires, catastrophic storms, and they're just so much more frequent. Difficulties with agriculture and producing food, and then the disproportionate effect on people who aren't causing climate change, but they're getting much more effect of it. There's so much beauty in this world. I want future generations, my grandchildren, my kids, my students, all to be able to be productive and enjoy it as I have. I really believe that we can reverse many of the effects that we see right now. And even though I fiercely believe that, I think that the window of opportunity is closing, and I'm concerned about that.
Absolutely.
And I think that denying climate change or saying that it's too late is a cop-out. We just have to do it. And the other thing is I have taught many, many bright and creative students. I really believe in American ingenuity. I think we can figure this out. I think we're smart. I think we're creative. And I think we can figure out a more sustainable future.
Definitely a lot more positive reactions, I would say, than negative reactions. And also curious reactions, which I think is very important because at least with myself, it was one of my best friends, Maddie Springfield, who started this movement in Jaffrey. And she's been a lifelong friend of mine. And so she just reached out to me one day when she first wanted to get it started. And this is when I still didn't really know much about climate change, what was going on, and how our actions were having a role with changing the climate. But I just went out there with her. I believe my sister joined as well, just to support my friend. And from that moment, I just got hooked with wanting to talk about it more, learn about it more, and spread the information to all those around me. And so since then, like, especially with family members, they've asked a lot more questions. It's been something that they say they think a lot more about how their actions have an impact on the environment. And this was something that they never thought about before. And also with just, you run into someone at the grocery store and they might ask, oh, are you that girl who stands in the corner and stuff like that? And it's good because even if that's just how they recognize you, it starts that conversation, and it starts putting thoughts into their head about how their actions have an impact on the planet as well. And I think like Jerry was saying, it's some really depressing and scary topics, thinking about what will happen if we don't take action. But it's only going to get more scary and more overwhelming if we just keep brushing it aside and keep ignoring it. The only way to kind of make it less scary is to actually start talking about it and start acting on it. So I think just by standing out on the corner like we've gotten, I feel a lot more honks, a lot more waves. You can see people who are going to school every morning because it's right at 8 a.m. So you have both kids who are going to the middle school and high school, as well as kids who are on their way to the elementary school in town. We've actually had, you'll see a couple of students walking past us and talking with us when they're on their way walking to school. And so it's really great to be able to interact with them and to see them get excited to be a part of that action in town. So I would definitely say at first, we got flipped off a few times and got some people doing burnouts past us or whatever it may be. But I'd say the positive reactions outweigh the negative ones for sure.
Jerry Burns, I just retired as a professor of English from Franklin Pierce University. And I guess kind of like Megan, the roots of my involvement here probably go pretty far back. I would say for me, it wasn't all of nature, but one aspect of nature, the weather. I was fascinated by the weather. When I was a kid, I used to make up my own forecasts and follow the weather and get excited with big storms and that sort of thing. And so I think that's where I sort of come from. The idea that human beings were altering the weather as something that I followed carefully and kind of loved in a way. That was shocking to me. The sense of, kind of like, wow, that just doesn't seem right. But it took me a long time to begin to act on that in any way. I was involved in a documentary film that an institute at Franklin Pierce put together on climate change. We actually started thinking about the hurricane of '38 and its impact on local history. But we decided, let's try to see if we can understand the lessons of that natural disaster for the situation we're facing now. Sometime after that, I guess I finally came around to thinking that this is the one that I needed to be involved in. There are a lot of pressing problems, a lot of huge problems that need people to be involved and so on. But this one has a ticking clock on it. There's just not that much time left. So decided I should probably step forward and do something a little more actively. So with a colleague from that earlier institute, I helped to found the Institute for Climate Action at Franklin Pierce, get that rolling, get that off the ground.
Nice. And is there an active group out there at Franklin Pierce? Is there?
Yeah, there is. The Institute for Climate Action is still going strong. We went through the pandemic. We stayed active. We had to do most things remotely, but we kept it going. Now I've retired, but my colleague Catherine Koning, who's actually on sabbatical, is still involved. And the Institute, which has joined students, faculty, and staff together, is still doing good work. We've had some successes on campus, set up a solar array on top of the field house.
I'm Pat Martin, and I live in Ringe. I'm a retired electrical engineer and chair of the Ringe Energy Commission since 2009. And I've been very interested in climate and renewable energy actually since the first oil embargo back in the 70s when I was a student. So, this is something that I've followed my whole life. But there clearly aren't enough people engaged, enough people being concerned about this. Human beings don't seem to be too good at looking at long-term consequences. We know it from what we do to ourselves in terms of health and everything else. But now, at this moment in time, we need to pull it together. And I started attending the Fridays for Future because I saw an article in the paper and a post on Facebook that Maddie Springfield, I had no idea who she was starting up at Fridays for Future Climate Strike in Jaffrey. And I had recently lost my husband and was kind of disconnected from everything, including climate work. And I saw that and I said, you know what? I should be doing something. And this is something I can do. I don't have to talk to anybody. I don't have to be really smart. All I have to do is hold a sign and try to get people's attention, get them to see that our young people are demanding that we do something before we leave them with a wreck. So I just want to mention, if you're in the Keene area, please go to the website for Clean Energy Team Keene, or I think it may be Keene Clean Energy Team. They have a photo petition going on, asking people to take a picture of themselves with a message, like a small 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper with a message about New Hampshire Saves, the weatherization project that the utilities run in the state. All the funding is being threatened by the Public Utilities Commission. So Keene's Clean Energy Team is partnering with several other organizations in the state, including Clean Energy New Hampshire, in a lawsuit. Not that Clean Energy Team is part of the lawsuit, but they're going to support them with the photo petition and with people writing to the Public Utilities Commission. So if you can get involved in that way and call your state legislators, everybody should be calling them and letting them know you're around, and your state senator, and asking them to get the PUC to reverse their decision. It's very dangerous.
One of my inspirations is Jane Goodall, and one of her biggest messages, I think, is that every day you have an impact on this planet, and it's up to you whether it's going to be a positive impact or a negative impact. So personally, I've been looking at my own actions each day, because it's definitely, to make serious change, we're going to have to change the systems and completely rethink a way of life. Like I said earlier, climate justice, it's not just climate justice, it's related to so many different things, whether it be social justice and social inequalities and those type of things that you're looking at. Or, for example, like in the global south, you have people, for example, in Africa, who are responsible for 3% of the total emissions, yet they're the most vulnerable right now to the climate crisis. And that's in many regions right now who are experiencing extreme weather events related to climate change and are already experiencing droughts, already experiencing flooding. Just kind of recognizing that social justice and also human rights, the idea of human rights, just like your smaller individual actions, kind of, if they're in line with your morals and your values, then it kind of makes you want to take more action. For example, like my family, I kind of just started recycling in the house and getting everyone on board with recycling. And at first I thought that was going to be really difficult, but it ended up being pretty simple. So next I want to move to like composting with my whole entire family, and then hopefully, and then just like little actions, once you see that they are not using plastic, always having reusable bags when you go to the stores, it helps out because it shows you how you can live more sustainable, and how it's not difficult. And it kind of just like every action leads to another one, I think. And then as far as just reaching out to like politicians and local leaders, as well as, you know, the power of consumption too, like whether you're purchasing from companies that have that you know that they are more eco-friendly and they're trying to take the planet into consideration in all their actions. That's definitely something that I've been looking into more. Whenever I make any type of purchases, I really try and look into the company's, you know, values and their whole process. And that has played a big role in what I've been purchasing now as well. So
The thing is that the energy that you don't use is the most cost-effective energy there is. By like, we were supposed to reduce energy consumption, mostly electricity, by about 2% this year. That's what the utilities were going to do through New Hampshire Saves.
Yeah.
If they don't do that, then they're going to have to come up with 2% more power someplace else, from a new power plant, new pipelines, you know.
And it's
And
much more expensive than
and
the energy
ratepayers,
that's already there.
right? And ratepayers were all going to have to pay for it. So, you know, energy efficiency is the cheapest megawatt that you can possibly produce, much cheaper even than the renewables, which I love and are cheaper in general than the more traditional types of power production now. But everybody should be seeing this as a way to more economic independence. You know, I've been on a journey doing the New Hampshire Saves energy audit at my house and getting it weatherized and then installing heat pumps. And the thing is that, you know, most of the time people talk about like conserving energy, saving energy as being a sacrifice, but actually, you know, it makes economic sense. You know, I figure from that New Hampshire Saves energy audit that I had done 10 years ago, that I've purchased 2,000 fewer gallons of oil to heat my home since I did that.
Wow, that's
and
great.
Today's dollars, that's $6,500.
Yeah.
You know, in my pocket, that wouldn't have been there without the energy audit and the weatherization. I think there's that people will save money, you know, if they can get that first help up through New Hampshire Saves, if they can be pointed in the right direction and given the tools.
Sure, and
we can do this, and it's going to take all of us.
I think that's it. I think we're back to me. I wanted to show you their slides again, but I'm sort of tinkering with that stuff, and I'm not going to come up with that, I don't think. Let's see if it'll work. I think we're out of luck there. Anyway, we got our events coming up this week. Thursday, 5 o'clock in the square. Be there to support the homeless. 6 o'clock speaking at City Hall. Friday, 11 o'clock, 11 to 1, we're going to span the noontime with a honk and wave for the environment, downtown Keene, New Hampshire. That's about it. I'm Dave. This is November and Beyond, and we'll just see you next time.